Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
I know words. I have the best words.
They call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm not a smart person. I'm cognitively there.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Thursday. We got a show for you. A good one. Possibly. All right, so, fun. welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, of course, and we got fun stories. So, first, we're going to get into, of course, Donald Trump in his taxes. Ooh, how much should he pay? You're going to be either not surprised and enraged or just enraged. So we've got that. We also have Sean Hannity admitting under oath, testifying that it turns out, yeah, I was lying about election fraud. You know, just lying. Oh, okay, wonderful. So we've got the details on that. We also have MAGA turning on Mike Pillow in one of the best fun segments that we have. We have Let Him Fight, Let Him Fight. We have Kari Lake and her so-called election security expert. Not making a great case for Kari Lake. And then an update here on George Santos, if that's his real name, and more lies. So we've got just a lot of Republican lies this week that we are just diving into and ripping apart. So, as usual, fun with that. All right. Before we get into the stories, please like and share. Do so. Facebook's been doing this weird thing, like every time I use a video clip, they forget that fair use exists. So I'm not getting it monetized on a lot of Facebook videos, unfortunately. So, any way that you can help out, subs, bits, super chats, stuff like that, helps us out. Again, weirdo fair use stuff. Like, oh, we need to check to see if you're, actually using this clip as fair use when I'm doing like 9 minutes of commentary and adding a 1 minute video inside my video. So it's ridiculous. Some of the weirdo content ID stuff that's going on Facebook when YouTube, totally fine. So bizarre. All right. So anyway, any way that you can help us out, I'd appreciate it, especially in this Christmas. So, gentlemen, Republicans are liars. Tell me something that I didn't already know. It's just like the brazenness and the complexity, or even sometimes the simplicity of their lies, just blows my mind. All right. So with that said, how's the polar vortex here? Not hit us yet, but soon. Tonight's the night, folks. Tomorrow. Oh, interesting. You see, I've already kind of bundled up a little bit. Getting ready for it. Ready for it. All right. So let's move on. Let's get into the stories. How much did former President Donald Trump pay in taxes? Well, in 2020, nothing. Big fat zero. Nothing. How do we know this? His tax returns. Now, these tax returns were obtained after a Democrat-controlled panel on the House Ways and Means Committee voted along party lines, 24-16, to release them after a 6-year-long legal battle. So, what have we learned so far from the taxes? It turns out nothing that we didn't already know. We know there's a 2-tier tax system in this country. We know that, generally the wealthier you are, the more ways you find out of getting, of having to pay your fair share in taxes. So now, the system, of course, that really shows the system is rigged for the rich. Here we have an alleged billionaire paying nothing in federal taxes for the year of 2020. So that's what happened. And by the way, 2020 is not the only year they have records for. They have records for at least 6 years of taxes. And wow. So now you're not going to be surprised that in some of those years, the average working class person actually paid more in federal taxes than Donald Trump. Amazing. The former president of the United States. So now, you could look at some of the years and focus in on 2020, right? So now 2020, you could say, look, COVID. COVID had obliterated businesses, the travel industry, and hotels. And, well, that's what, Donald Trump operates a lot of hotels and, golf courses. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. You'd be right. Donald Trump runs a golf course and hotel, a chain of them, and he's lost money. Sure, and a lot of businesses ended up suffering as a result of COVID-19. Which explains why Donald Trump did not want any sort of shutdown on the economy, because that would affect his properties, and it did affect his properties. So that's just 1 year, though. What about the other years? Well, it turns out the other years not exactly great either. In fact, the Trumps on their tax returns, that's Donald and Melania, reported a negative income in 4 out of the 6 years reported on their tax forms. That's amazing. Amazing. In 3 of those years, 2015, 2016, and 2017, the Trumps reported income tax liability of just $750. Wow. Their adjusted gross income, this is, pre-tax, okay, totaled a negative $53.2 million. Their total federal tax liability, including self-employment and household employment taxes, was $4.4 million. The only years that the Trumps reported a positive adjusted gross income were 2018 and 2019, reporting $24.3 million, and in 2019, $4.4 million. So the Trumps paid almost $1 million in taxes in 2018 and in 2019, respectively, paid $133,445. Okay, so, wow. The first thing I noticed before, as I said, alleged billionaire not paying anything in 2020. The second thing I noticed is again, along that line, those aren't billionaire numbers. I think it's pretty obvious. If you're only making $24.3 million a year and you claim to be a billionaire, those are rookie numbers, son. You have to pump those up. You're not doing very well. Now, the other thing is how much money they lost. Look at that. Negative $53.4 million. What a disaster. You're calling yourself a good businessman? That's a good businessman. That's your daddy, MAGA. Really? Really? I know there are still Trump hangers-ons who will say stupid things like, well, he was president of the United States, so of course he didn't make any money because he sacrificed it for the country, the good of the nation. Yeah, okay, Clan, sure. Explain then how Trump was still claiming tax benefits for losses in 2009 up until 2018. In September 2020, the New York Times reported that Trump was still facing an IRS audit, potentially tied to a $72.9 million tax refund in 2009, arising from $700 million in claimed losses that year. Wow. Really? Well, 2009, the financial collapse, it took out everybody. It took out everybody. That's what happened. Oh, okay. Well, funny, you were president of the United States, and so you had a little bit of, say over maybe regulating the banks to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again, right? I mean, you could have fixed that. Dodd-Frank, come on, Dodd-Frank, really? Not much of a fix. You could have at least advocated for, reining in the Wall Street and the bankers, but no, of course, you didn't. Okay, sure. Look, Donald Trump, we know, is a grifter. And not even a world-class grifter. From what we've seen from his taxes so far, if he were actually a decent grifter, he would have money. But he really doesn't. Instead, he has piles of debt and got massive refunds from the government and has basically been kept afloat by that, as well as loans from his friends in Saudi Arabia, or just declaring bankruptcy numerous times over and over again. And you have the Republican Party, members of it, that are still defending him, that are still protecting him. Speaking of protection, the panel's 29-page executive summary also shows the IRS had failed to do their job, failed to audit. This is a mandatory audit of Donald Trump's tax returns during his first 2 years in office, which skirted a requirement that dates back to 1977 following, of course, a controversy over former President Richard Nixon's taxes. So they found, the report did, that the IRS agents in charge of what were to be Trump's audits did not bring in specialists with expertise assessing the complicated structure of Trump's holdings. And they frequently determined that a limited examination was warranted because they hired a professional accounting firm. Because Trump had hired a professional accounting firm that they assumed would make sure Trump properly reports all income and deduction items correctly. So basically what they said is, oh, look, Trump will audit himself. That's it. We'll trust Trump to audit his own finances and to report things. What? I'm sorry. The IRS expected Donald Trump, the serial liar, the man who has lied over 30,000 times as president, to be honest about his taxes? Really? Now, of course, the IRS never made such expectation because the person who led the IRS under Trump is a Trump loyalist. Somebody who Trump appointed. And of course, you've had years of Republicans continuously breaking down the IRS, weakening it so that it doesn't go after rich people, so that it goes after you and me. Because that's the only people that they can go after. Again, we're not surprised by any of this. I told you, he's an awful businessman, and the records so far have proven it. But there is still more that has to be released, and that's a lot of the alleged criminal stuff. And the question, of course, is he a tax cheat? Looking at those numbers, I would say yes. Because, look, they're terrible numbers for an alleged billionaire. Either he had massively underreported his income, which is tax fraud, by the way, because you're underreporting your income in order to save money and not paying taxes and sometimes get a refund, which he did, and or overstating his losses. So that, again, he would not be able to report his correct income and pay the correct amount of taxes that he is supposed to owe. And that's in addition to being a terrible businessman in the first place. Now, that's not a crime itself, but the other stuff is. And being a terrible businessman, of course, would mean that he's more liable to do crime in order to keep his alleged status of, status of an alleged billionaire. Now, that said, when it comes to Trump, I don't think he actually cared about any of the criminal stuff or alleged criminal stuff because he has a history of getting away with it. And I think his taxes, the reality is, I think that his taxes showed that he's not as rich or as business savvy as he had claimed to be. And the reason that matters to him is because the ego is the only thing that matters to Trump. Remember, this is a guy who is dependent on being called the best. Being the best, the greatest at everything. In fact, nobody could ever be as good or as great as me. I'm a tremendous person, tremendously wealthy, and successful. Everybody asks, how are you so successful, Trump? I don't know, good genes. Very stable genius. But he's not. He's not the greatest. He's not even good. He's run various failed schemes. Trump University is a good example. And other failed ventures. Like, I don't know, Trump Air, Trump Steaks, Trump Water. Numerous other Trump ventures that just have not panned out at all. This guy bankrupted his own casinos. How much of a terrible businessman do you have to do to fail at a casino? The house is always supposed to win. And so, yes, when you, are a failure at legitimate business, what are you going to do? You're going to run illegitimate business. And probably shit on your taxes. And that's despite, of course, Donald Trump getting every advantage and break he could in the book. So now, I want to share one last thing, and this is a response from Trump's spokesperson. And I just think it's really funny. He called this is Stephen Chung, right? And this is him speaking to the Wall Street Journal. Sorry. He released the returns as an unprecedented leak by lame duck Democrats. The lame duck Democrats. If this injustice can happen to President Trump, it can happen to all Americans without cause. What average American, working class person is going to have Congress specifically request their tax returns? That's not going to happen. What are you talking about? Oh, the IRS, they're looking into the most powerful man in the world. That means they're going to look into you next. No, you're not even on their radar, dude. Seriously. You're not the most to say that you're just like the most powerful man or the previously most powerful man in the country or in the world is anywhere close. Like if something bad happens to them, then automatically it must happen to you. It's just a ridiculous leap in logic. And I don't think anybody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. There's no reason for an average person to have Congress want to look at their taxes. Whereas Trump is a major public figure whose organization was just recently found guilty of tax fraud, conspiracy, and falsifying their business records. Weird. If there's any reason to maybe have his taxes looked at, it would be that. It would be that. And most importantly, too, him being president and having financial issues or possible financial issues, I mean, that's a matter of national security. Because who knows what decisions that he made, and if they were based on who had loaned him money in the past, or, you know, whatever decision has to do with his having to service his creditors, whether that or not those are foreign creditors. And I think that's a really, really important thing that, once again, nobody talks about. It's a potential conflict of interest that shouldn't exist, and the American people should probably know about that. These conflicts of interest. I mean, they're talking about they're hyperventilating, I should say, about Hunter Biden, right? Hunter Biden, Burisma, and there's all the conflict of interest, it controls Joe Biden. Well, wait, Donald Trump has massive debts all over the world, not just in the country, all over the world, because he couldn't get loans from American banks. You're not going to look into that? You're not going to look into how the Saudis have been funneling a lot of money to Jared Kushner, for example, $2 billion loan? Or all the other money that he received from the Saudis? Not going to look into that because, well, that's not a conflict of interest. But yet, Hunter Biden is, who was never in office. Republicans, you going to talk about that? No, of course not. No, the focus is just trying to take all the heat off Donald Trump. Amazing. Amazing. But again, you had that conflict of interest. Now, the reason, okay, that you got to focus on that conflict of interest and really to talk about doing things like divesting from their businesses, which Donald Trump did not do. The reason that presidents normally would do that is so that they can fully represent the best interests of the people and not their own financial interests. Jimmy Carter had to divest from his peanut farm. I mean, he didn't have to. There was no law saying that. But they did so voluntarily so, that you could, at a minimum, try to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest when it comes to being the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, and your own business interest. That's the minimum. And Donald Trump didn't even meet the bar. Not at all. Not at all. Now, the other fun thing, getting back to Jung's statement here, he added that the full release of the returns will reflect Trump's success as a businessman. Look at all the money he lost. You're going to call that a success? I mean, I guess if you look at success at, hey, I screwed over the government by not paying my taxes. Again, of course he spins it that way. He already has. Oh, I didn't, have to pay taxes. That's smart. It's called being intelligent and very, very smart. I don't pay my bills. That makes me smart. Oh, yes, Mr. Trump, of course. Very, very, very intelligent. Oh, yes. Doing tax fraud. Very intelligent indeed. Again, all that's alleged. But these tax returns really do give you an insight into, the possibility that he would do tax fraud to save himself money. Because losing that much money is that bad of a businessman. In order to keep up his lifestyle, yeah, you might have to fudge the numbers a bit. Are we surprised? No. Because what did we expect? The very same thing. Okay. Moving on. Let's go to Sean Hannity. Okay. Fox host Sean Hannity is a liar. And in addition, a grifter. He was pretty shameless. Who knew he was lying to his audience about election fraud and did it anyway? Now, that's the takeaway from the recent New York Times report about the Fox News defamation lawsuit brought by Dominion Voting Systems. So now, Hannity had testified in the summer as part of that lawsuit. And, you're going to not be shocked that he knew that the voter fraud claims were full of crap, and that he was full of crap, and that Trump was full of crap, and still, well, said this. And he said, quote, "I did not believe it for 1 second," under oath. Now, that sounds a lot different than what he was saying in public. Because, of course. So, look, Hannity being honest for once, because he is under oath, and his confession came out of a court. It came out in court during a hearing. On Wednesday, to address several issues that needed to be resolved before the case heads to a jury trial scheduled to begin in April. So, he didn't believe it for a second, Hannity, but he sure really enjoyed hosting people like Sidney Powell, who was spreading insane conspiracy theories about, the Dominion machines, flipping votes to Joe Biden, Venezuela, in order to, make the United States into communism or something like that. I don't know. But instead of asking his guest or pushing back on her and saying, hey, okay, why don't you have some evidence? Why don't you present something to, make your case? Instead of that, we got this.
Evidence of corruption all across the country in countless districts. The machine ran an algorithm that shaved votes from Trump and awarded them to Biden. They used the machines to trash large batches of votes that should have been awarded to President Trump. And they used a machine to inject and add massive quantities of votes for Mr. Biden. The only reason we really found out how bad it was.
I thought Democrats told us that we like whistleblowers. You're saying that these people can't talk because they're going to lose their job.
Democrats don't like whistleblowers. They only like liars who claim they're whistleblowers.
They like hearsay whistleblowers. Listen, if these people have something to say, we got to be able to hear them. And, at some point, if everybody disagrees that the voting system is not the best, from the media, Democrats and Republicans, now we have to ask, why did we use them? When these people can speak, I'd love to have the chance to interview them. Sydney, thank you.
Why aren't the Democrats, why are they silencing the whistleblowers? Essentially, why are you keeping them so? Why can't we talk to them? Why can't we talk? We love the whistleblowers. Really? Love the whistleblowers. What about Assange? What did Donald Trump do with Julian Assange if he loves whistleblowers so much? Weird. Or the other ones, Reality Winner, for example. But okay, sure. One thing, God, looking at that video, and maybe it's just my screen, but did Hannity not look like super orange back then? I swear everyone had a Trump tan back then, like a fake bake. It's bizarre. Okay, but anyway, so that's Sean Hannity. It's weird that for someone who didn't believe it for a second, for 1 second, he sure entertained it quite a bit. In fact, talked about how, Democrats, why aren't they standing up for the whistleblower? These people, who have all this, seen all this fraud, why aren't the Democrats letting them speak out? I thought they liked whistleblowers. So basically, look, Sean Hannity, yes, he lied. Now, did what we see here and his admission, is that definitive proof of defamation? Well, I don't know. Defamation has a very, very high standards, and I can't tell. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say for certain that this meets that very, very high standard. That's what the court has to figure out. That's why they're going to trial. But certainly what I do get from Hannity is that he, yes, was spreading fake news. and look, Hannity's not the only one. Others at Fox News were also spreading this fake news, these conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. In fact, Dominion lawyers, according to the piece, argued in a courtroom on Wednesday that not a single Fox witness had produced anything that supported any of the bogus election fraud claims Trump and his supporters promoted after the 2020 presidential election. That includes, of course, our good friend Sidney Powell.
In Venezuela.
Yeah. And so Dominion lawyer Stephen Shackelford told the court that Hannity's doubts were echoed in other depositions with Fox hosts and executives, including Tucker Carlson. We got Tucker Carlson here.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
Forever. Okay. So yeah, Tucker Carlson, according to Shackelford, tried to squirm out of answering this question on what he really believes during his deposition. Hey Tucker, what do you believe the election was stolen using the machines by Joe Biden in Venezuela? Well, I don't. There are maybe people that are saying these things, and maybe we should really listen to. I mean, let me ask you a question. No, Mr. Carlson, do you believe this or not? Do you believe that the election was stolen or not? He couldn't answer the question, kept squirming out of it. So interesting. In fact, Mr. Shackelford had started to elaborate about what Mr. Carlson had said privately, telling the judge about the existence of text messages the host had sent in November and December of 2020. However, the judge, Eric M. Davis, cut him off, leaving the specific contents of those texts unknown. I'd really like to see them. That would be very, very interesting. But we can't see them. The judge actually helped out in Fox's defense. Now, a second lawyer representing Dominion, Justin Nelson, told Judge Davis about the evidence obtained by Dominion showing that an employee of the Fox Corporation, the parent company of Fox News, had tried to intervene with the White House to stop Sidney Powell. According to Mr. Nelson, that employee had called the fraud claims, quote unquote, outlandish, and pressed Mr. Trump's staff to get rid of Powell, who was at the time advising the president on filing legal challenges to the results. But I'm sure that Fox Corporation executive was just some left-wing Antifa supporter. I mean, no, not supporter, left-wing Antifa super soldier. That's what he was. Yep, has to have been. That employee at the Fox Corporation, which I'm assuming is just filled with woke. So many woke people. Woke SJWs with blue, purple, and pink hair. That's right. We'll all support Joe Biden and communism. I mean, really, if I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to make that argument to rebut what that executive at Fox Corporation was saying about these nonsense election conspiracy theories. Because that's what they are. They're nonsense election conspiracy theories. About, like, the ghost of Hugo Chavez stealing the election using Dominion voting machines. I mean, again, ridiculous, right? So now, that said, Trump did get rid of Sidney Powell because she was too crazy. Her Kraken turned out to be a floppy fish, a dead one at that. But Trump is still, at this moment, raging on Truth Social about the election being stolen, and even saying we should just overthrow the country. Just let's just do it already. Mask off. Let's just go full authoritarian and just take over. But for Fox News, it's obviously a lot more subtle because they have to protect themselves from defamation, even though they also have to pander to their audience, which has become increasingly inundated with conspiracy theories. So at that point, they knew that they were putting out fake news. And look, obviously, Fox News also has a history of just putting out false statements, false things. That's kind of their MO. That's what they do. But a lot of it, of course, is protected by the First Amendment. But defamation, of course, is not. And so you have to prove that there is malice here in their lies, specifically aimed at harming a person or organization. So that's where the high bar comes into play when it comes to a defamation lawsuit. And you can really make a comparison here with what Hannity was doing versus someone like Alex Jones. Alex Jones, you recall his defamation suit that he lost. Well, he lost due to, of course, not complying with discovery, but he just made the most outlandish statements. I mean, the most vicious statements against the Sandy Hook families. Oh, they're crisis actors. They didn't really die. Oh, I believe it. Oh yeah, there's something going on here. These Sandy Hook families, when they're sitting there, they're crying in one scene, and then they're laughing in another. I just don't think it happened ever. It's just an excuse to come take our guns. Where Sean Hannity is like, oh, I think the Democrat, don't they believe in whistleblower? Don't they believe in the First Amendment? Oh, they should allow these people to speak about the alleged fraud that they saw. I'm not quite saying fraud. So I don't know if Sean Hannity, again, he knows that it was BS, but it's how you present that information, or disinformation in this case, that really, walks the line between it being defamation and normally what Fox News does. And that is, of course, put out misinformation, but doing so with an air of a little bit of plausible deniability. So it is really interesting. It is really, really interesting. And so for Hannity, his aim is what it's always been: ratings. Look, when you're something like Sean Hannity that gets paid millions and millions of dollars to come out and basically be the protector of Republicans, other Republicans, Republican president, doesn't matter what they did, you're always going to defend Republicans. They're there to defend the home team. MSNBC is there also is sort of the opposing, right? They defend the Democrats pretty much no matter what they do. Fox News defends Republicans. And so that's what Sean Hannity signed up for. I don't think he signed up for this, election denial, but he still gave a platform to them. And that's what's, could be damning for him, because he didn't push back enough to allow his viewers to get the idea that, oh, Sean Hannity, watching Hannity's having all these guests, he must also believe in this, election conspiracy theory. So I don't know. But I do know Sean Hannity's going to do what Sean Hannity's going to do to make as much money as Sean Hannity can. Because that's what it's about for him. It's about tax cuts for himself and getting ratings. And look, the Republican audience, they love the big lie. They loved it. And so that's why Fox News, people like Hannity, kept interviewing people like, Powell, to keep those ratings up, keep those people tuning in, keep them interested. And then, of course, bringing them on and not pushing back at all. But again, you run up to that fine line when it comes to defamation. And look, Dominion thinks we got enough to prove that Fox News absolutely, their hosts, they knew they were doing defamation and they still did it anyway. But it is going to be a very hard case for either of them to prove, honestly. So we'll have to see if Hannity and other Fox hosts were careful enough to, yes, entertain these conspiracy theories and their own viewers to keep them tuning in, while also just barely keeping themselves clear of defaming, Dominion and Smartmatic. It is an interesting case, and it will have, I believe, ramifications on news and the First Amendment in general. But, for Hannity, again, it just confirms what we already knew from a lot of these Fox hosts. They knew that what they were saying were lies, and still were continuing to spread them anyway, for profit. Okay. Ravaging Wolverine says, funny how they all break character under oath. I know, it's really strange, huh? It's almost like they're playing a part. Weird. Okay. Now, speaking of people who are not playing a part, let's go to Mike Pillow. Fun. I don't know if I should play the Pillow Talk intro. I think I'll skip it today. In the interest of time. Here's that MAGA world is not happy with Mike Pillow. Now, recently, Trump's pillow fluffer put out a new conspiracy theory that perhaps Ron DeSantis, that's Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, actually didn't win his election. Drums.
But, you know, a lot of my team, at least the cyber team and the IT people, do you know what county in the country I'm having them focus on?
What?
For the next couple weeks?
What? Which one?
It is, just hold on a second. Go talk there. I'm gonna see if I'm getting advice from my attorney here, not to.
So he was going to say Dade County. And he said, I don't believe it regarding DeSantis's 10-plus point triumph in that election. He said, so it's just going to show everybody, just like we always tell you about Democrats when they stole their elections. They didn't. I'm going to find out if Dade County, what happened there. Which would be nothing. You know? Because nothing happened. Look, and by the way, I'm not a fan of Ron DeSantis, but there's no evidence that Ron DeSantis stole the election in Florida. I mean, come on. What this is, and it's very clear, right, that it's just Mike Pillow trying to help Donald Trump knock out one of his biggest potential rivals in the upcoming primary. Now, look, Ron DeSantis hasn't declared, but we all know that it's likely going to happen. Why is that? Because this is Ron DeSantis' best chance. You see all these Republicans lining up to support DeSantis. You have, of course, the entire Murdoch press that is essentially pushing him, New York Post specifically, publishing anti-Trump stories. Of course, there's stuff about his taxes and things like that. And so, yeah, they want Ron DeSantis. Your Candace Owens going to Ron DeSantis. That's, of course, pissing off a lot of Ben Shapiro, also going for Ron DeSantis. And so you're going to inevitably have pushback on that. And this is part of that, I believe. Now, what's funny is that mentioning some of those other conservative voices, well, the ones who endorsed Trump's voter fraud narrative are now suddenly laughing at Mike Pillow for putting forward a voter fraud narrative. Hilarious. In fact, let's go to James Lindsay. Ah, yes. Who wrote this? Everything down to the wording of this makes me think that Mike Lindell is a highly patriotic, but extremely vulnerable man, being used without his realizing it to discredit real election integrity efforts, which is evil and sad, if correct. So, look, what's interesting about that is he's actually kind of right about Mike Pillow. In the context of him being used by right-wingers, yes, it's true. Look, Mike Pillow is a disturbed man. He's had some serious issues. I think he still has serious issues. And look, there was reporting here by Jonathan Larson that we had talked about on the show, a long time ago. Came out that there was this evangelical group called The Family that sought out Mike Pillow in order to get access to his money. Essentially, they got him in touch with Trump after he met Trump. of course, he started to believe that Donald Trump himself was anointed by like God to be the president, and that, you know, would make Mike Pillow, who was helping Trump, essentially an apostle. Interesting. Also crazy, obviously. But Mike Pillow is convinced that he is special. And so that an attack on Trump or him is an attack on God. It is really strange how they just tie all this up into religion. But anyway, more criticism here. Former Newsmax TV host John Cardillo responded with this, quote, Lindell needs to go away. He's being interviewed by the guy he funds on his own network, spewing lunatic conspiracy theories. DeSantis did well in Florida because he did an amazing job for Florida. I'll disagree with that. He just did well in Florida because that's what Florida voters, apparently more of them, wanted. Lindell's BS is pathetic, and he should stop listening to grifters and using him for money. Again, really interesting. Because they all know that Mike Pillow is being used. And they were the ones using him. An editor at Red State also said this. I mean, DeSantis' victory margins are just as insane as this amazing new deal on MyPillow. If you go to mypillow.com and put in your special code. Fun. And also, one last one. This response from Tim Pool, who just simply wrote, LOL, LOL. Oh, there you go on that. It's so good. It's so good because this is a case of let them fight. It's a grifter fight. There's nothing better than a grifter fight. They're the best. So now, on Wednesday evening, Lindell doubled down on what he called deviations, right? So this is, again, related to his Florida audit of Dade County. And he said, I don't care. Before saying his investigation could take us upwards of 2 weeks to complete with cast vote records. I'm investigating the machines. They don't care if you were a Democrat or Republican. It's funny because they're so close. They're so close. It really does show you, though, that this is all, like, they all know it's bullshit. The right wing, when it comes to this election fraud stuff, all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Like their allegations of grooming, right? Against LGBTQ people, teachers, etc., right? They say, oh, no, it's, you know, the LGBTQ people, you know, they're the groomers, right? They're drag queens, they're the groomers, they're grooming the children. No examples of that. But there's example after example after example of pastors and right-wing politicians that were caught grooming, exploiting children. I mean, and it's not like people don't, you know, people like Anthony Weiner didn't exist. They do. He was caught sexting a 15-year-old. Obvious, right? That's a problem. But see, Anthony Weiner, you haven't heard much of him, have you? That's because he's been blacklisted by pretty much every Democrat and normal person because of what he did, and he deserved to be blackballed for that. Like, he's a creepy dude. But on the right wing, they take that and they ignore it. Oh, you're Roy Moore and you used to, you know, stalk 14-year-olds at the mall? Try to pick them up? Not a problem. You're a good conservative, right? Oh, yes, you're a very, very, very good conservative. Oh, yeah, we're going to support you. Just example after example after example of that just hypocrisy. So, but really, the point that I'm trying to make here is the right wing is utterly incapable of admitting that the bad people on their side are actually bad. And they're actually doing bad things. Because they will rush to defend them because, of course, it's this team mentality that you have. But what's funny is now it's really showing this inter-GOP civil war that's going on between, Trump supporters, DeSantis supporters. Well, they're showing that it's not really an issue until it gets in their way. Again, you have a lot of Republicans that are desperate to move away from Donald Trump, and it's because Donald Trump's a loser. Not because they disagree with Trump's policies. It's just that he's a loser. He lost the election, and his candidates were obliterated during the midterm elections. And these, people that were obliterated, they lost because they believed in Donald Trump's and were spreading Donald Trump's conspiracy theory about the election. And there were also people like, Herschel Walker. Okay. Herschel Walker, not exactly the sanest person around.
This election is about the people.
Sure was. Sure was, Herschel. Sure was. Election was about something. But look, as I said, you have these people that have moved away from Trump, and they want Ron DeSantis. And, of course, that's causing issues with the Trump defenders, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Pillow, who are desperate to get Donald Trump back into power. So now that said, the Daily Beast did interview Mr. Mike Pillow, and he had some interesting things to say. They explained the interview. This was a phone interview of Mike Pillow basically both backtracking and doubling down at the same time. And then you're going to love what he says about his critics. He said, while declaring that his investigation could reveal deviations, which would help get rid of these electronic voting machines, but then said, if we don't find wrongdoing in Miami-Dade County, he said his team would be able to state the whole country is redder than red. What we could find in Miami-Dade County is where they did not do any cheating at all, saying that his investigation could become a blueprint to prove voter fraud in other states. I read that correctly. Just to note, I didn't misstate what I read. That's verbatim. He basically just said, by not proving voter fraud in Miami-Dade County, that somehow translates into proving voter fraud across the country. What? By not proving or proving that there was no voter fraud, you will somehow prove voter fraud at the same time. That doesn't make any sense. That's the rantings of a lunatic. How do you get that? But the words for his new critics are the best part. He said, quote, and I just read you, James Lindsay, Tim Pool, etc. They must have ownership in Dominion. I think they're all probably part owners in Dominion, or they hate our country. Oh, it's so good. Oh, let them fight. Republican on Republican crime. There's just nothing quite like it. Okay. All right. Oh, let's move on. I think I just need to get the soundbite of Mike Pillow saying, forget about the evidence. Just put it on the soundboard. I really have to add more stuff to the soundboard. There we go. Arizona's resident loser, Kari Lake, is still on her BS. Her fruitless quest to overturn her election loss, and it's not going very well. Here she is. Here is one of her star experts in her recent lawsuit to try to overturn her loss.
Whether it's accidental or inadvertent.
I gave the two options, sir.
Please allow me to ask the question. I'll allow you to answer. whether it's accidental or inadvertent, if the shrink-to-fit 19-inch ballot has to be duplicated, once it's duplicated, would it be tabulated? To your understanding.
There are two technical ways that that image would be there. None of the ways you it's not even possible.
That's
it's
not
possible, Your Honor.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Brady. That's not responsive to his question. If you are able to answer his question, you can do that.
Sir, are you able to answer the question?
I'm unable to answer your question.
I'm unable to answer that question. Oops. Great. So let me give you some context into what happened, just in case you haven't been following the Kari Lake case. So Kari Lake is trying to prove two things. One, that Maricopa County election officials, or at least one of them, had deliberately, secretly caused a printer malfunction that ended up losing Kari Lake enough votes so that she didn't win the election. And she is also trying to prove that ballots were allegedly improperly added by a contractor that handles the mail-in ballots. And of course, those, ballots were for Katie Hobbs instead of Kari Lake. Ah, right. Okay. So now the person that you saw on the stand getting a little combative is a supposed cybersecurity expert named Clay Perrick. Now, as HuffPost notes, Perrick, who had been had recently spoken at election denial events organized by Mike Pillow, yes, a very reputable there, said he had viewed ballots that were printed in the wrong size, and claims that, well, since they were printed in the wrong size, it must have been on purpose to steal the election for Katie Hobbs. What? So now, this is actually, this whole conspiracy theory revolves around a printer problem. And there were printer issues. The county admits that, yeah, there were some issues. You know why there could be potentially issues with, some of the printers or some of the machines? The fact that our election infrastructure is ancient and never gets funded well enough to be modernized and properly protected. And yes, that actually could lead to errors, and we've seen errors that happen. It can lead to machines just not functioning, or of course shutting down, or even the possibility of them being, hacked or broken into somehow. But the fact that, of course, that a lot of these election machines were not connected to any network during the election kind of disproves a lot of their theories involving, for example, foreign actors or, Venezuela or whatever, China coming in and hacking the machines and changing the votes for Biden. Again, none of that stuff has been proven. All of that stuff has actually been debunked and disproven. All this election fraud conspiracy theories. But nonetheless, this is a Hail Mary. Saying that it has to be somebody inside Maricopa County, one of their election officials, that, caused this printer error to print out the wrong size ballots and then counting them anyway, but counting them for Katie Hobbs instead of Kari Lake. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. The county said, by the way, that yes, while there were printer issues, everyone was still able to vote. And there was no evidence that this was done on purpose. So, again, this entire thing pretty much falls apart. Just like the rest of Kari Lake's allegations. In fact, a judge has dismissed 8 out of the 10 claims that she had raised in her lawsuit. 8 out of 10. And from what you've seen from the last 2, or at least in that one, those allegations don't seem to be going very well for Kari Lake either. Not good for her. Okay. All right. I'm out of time. Damn it, I'm out of time. So we're gonna have to pick it up the next time we're on the show. I have a lot of things to take care of. So with that, why don't I go through and oh no, I missed a lot of the super chats here, so I'm gonna have to go through and find those. I have many thanks to give. That awkward time of the show, I am looking. All right, so let's get into that here. Woozle 1967, thank you for the kind of $5. That just because Christmas. Thank you. Jonathan Leiter, thank you for the very kind $7 in chats for being a better business person than Dolt 45. It's kind of easy to do. Low bar, but thank you. Keep up the great work. Happy holidays. Thank you. Also, Trump is a legend in his own lunchtime. Lunchtime, of course, that involves hamburgers, Diet Coke, and of course the ketchup. Have the ketchup, right?
Dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
And Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very incredibly kind $50 super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to whatever you celebrate. Think about people in Ukraine freezing to death. And let me just add, think about people in Texas that could be freezing well because of Texas's power grid, which is still not fixed, by the way, and still not any different the last time Ted Cruz fled the state. So, by the way, if you do see Ted Cruz packing his bags, just know that something is going on in Texas. But yes, thank you very much, Gabby. And, we're non-denominational anything, so we're just basically atheist/agnostic. But thank you anyway. I really appreciate that. And again, happy holidays to you all as well. And thank you very much. Warm thoughts for us, FR state governor, or government, sorry. Yeah, just again, everybody who's facing this storm, just be cautious, be careful. We don't plan on going anywhere. It's going to be real bad tomorrow. A possibility of losing power, which I don't, obviously, and just it's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. So everybody, hopefully you stay safe. Don't travel if you don't have to. If you're in this area, definitely try to stay home, stay safe, all that wonderful. So, and don't forget to charge your phones. It's great advice, by the way. Did Cruz leave the state? I don't know. That's why I said keep a watch on him. If Ted Cruz is leaving the state, if he's going to Cancun, watch out in Texas. Watch out. But as far as my state is concerned, we're just bracing for the best. And so, to weather the storm. All right, everybody. Thank you once again. Twitch, just thank you for the new follows. Really appreciate that. And the raid into we'll just go and raid into the surfs. Lance over there doing a good job as always. All right. Love you all. Thank you. And remember, change begins with you. Love you guys. Great night.
Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
They are about to find out.
I do not consent.
God bless you.
We have to keep our country gay.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
We will keep kicking your ass every single